Welcome to the Tech Data Microsoft 365 Aruba webinar. I will now turn the conference over to Jeremy Singh. Please go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending our Microsoft plus Aruba Better Together webinar. Speaking today, we have JJ Antiquino from Microsoft, who is their partner technical strategist, and Jeff Bacchus, who is part of the business development team at Aruba. So before we begin, I just want to go over some quick housekeeping notes. If there's any questions you might have during the webinar, feel free to enter those in the Q&A box on the right-hand side. You can enter those questions at any time during the webinar, but I will only be able to get to those at the end of the presentation during our Q&A section. We are doing a random drawing today for Microsoft Band 2, where one lucky attendee will be winning that prize. We'll conduct a drawing after the webinar and contact the winner directly. All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and get started. JJ, take it away.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, and good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webinar today, and I'm really excited about the presentation because we're not only going to talk about Office 365, which I love to talk about, we're also going to talk about how we really optimize the experience for your end users. So really exciting stuff, and really glad that we're able to team up with Aruba for this webinar today. So really my part of this presentation is to get you guys thinking about selling Office 365 if you haven't done it before. And really the way that we present Office 365, because we need to make sure our end users understand the value of what they're getting here, right, is to really think about Office 365 as their complete office in the cloud. And the way we start off all of our conversations nowadays with Office 365 is to start at their desktops and really think about how they're being productive on their PCs. And most people that are productive on their PCs are using, the common desktop apps like Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Outlook. And we can get that to an end user in so many different ways. I wanted to clarify, though, again, that we can do it through Office Mobile on a mobile device like an iPhone or an iPad or an Android device. We can do it inside of a web browser such as Internet Explorer or Safari or Chrome or so forth, right? And those are the desktop apps. But again, those are kind of mobile ways of thinking about the Office desktop apps. So how do we actually talk to our customers and say, hey, I want to be able to have Office actually installed on my PC? Do I need to go out and buy something from Best Buy or get a volume license specifically for it? Well, the answer is still going to be Office 365, right? So when they want to have Excel, PowerPoint, Word, Outlook, and so forth installed on their PCs, they can still do it with Office 365. And even if they lose their internet connection, or even if they're going, on a plane and they don't have access to the cloud, they're still going to be able to run their desktop apps. And I'll show you a little bit about how we deploy those in just a few moments. But really, when you think about Office 365 as service providers, it's about bringing together all these crucial services that a business needs in order to be successful and to really take their small business into what an enterprise takes for granted, right? Business class email, online document storage and file sharing, online meetings. Have you ever thought of doing a private social network inside of your business? Because, Facebook is out there for everyone to see. Think about how we can provide technologies like Yammer to create an awesome business social network that you can now provide a lot of feedback on projects, as well as just giving people kudos and pat them back for doing a job well done. Obviously, along with Office 365, we're going to get great technical support for you guys as resellers, and it's always going to be backed by Microsoft's financially backed SLA. And so as I move through this complete Office in the cloud, I wanted to show you a little bit about what I was talking about earlier, where people are concerned about, hey, I need to have my Office apps on my PC. What does that mean exactly? Well, as a user, I'm going to be eligible to install Office on up to 5 devices, and those 5 devices could either be PCs or they can even be Macs. So, we don't even really care about the platform. It's about providing this desktop application service. And so in this case right here, when a user logs on to their Office 365 portal, they're going to be able to go ahead and see what I've got here on the screen right now. They're going to click on Install Desktop Application, and you can see on this page that I have installed the Office desktop apps on a couple of devices, like a Microsoft Windows 8.1 device, a technical preview, as well as Windows 10 Enterprise, and it lists the name of the PCs that the copy of Office is actually installed on. Once I run up against my 5 devices, I can easily hit that deactivate button, and now I can install Office again. This is great for administrators because now we don't have to worry about deploying Office. Each user is able to kind of take control of where they install Office and deactivate it pretty easily. right? So after you do that, you'll be taken to this page right now, and you'll see what version of Office that you're allowed to install. It could be Office 365 Pro Plus. It could be Office 365 Business, depending on the version of Office 365 that you purchased. But here you can see that I've got that Install button down at the bottom. I click on that. I'm now going to have a click-to-run version of Office deployed directly to my PC. So we talked about the desktop apps a little bit. You know, you're always going to have the latest and greatest version of Office. You know, you don't have to worry about thinking about, hey, am I going to be out of date with Office, you know, now that a new version is out. No, you're going to get the latest and greatest version with Office for your desktop, so your users are always going to be up to date. And a lot of times when people think about Office 365, they think about Exchange. And that is one of the first things that we've noticed that resellers have really gravitated towards as it pertains to Office 365. They've been saying, hey, you know what, you know, I have an old Exchange server, I have an old SBS server, it's been, you know, serving up mail for a number of years, but we're ready to move into the cloud, or I don't want to have to buy a new server in order to just do email. And obviously we've got business class, enterprise tested email within Exchange Online. And not only are we serving up email, but we're also delivering best-in-class anti-spam, anti-malware technology with our Exchange Online protection. And it could be, you know, 50 gigs worth of mailbox and storage right there for your users. And if you are using an enterprise plan with E3 and above, we're talking about unlimited archiving. You know, Exchange Online is such a tremendous value inside of Office 365. And then we start thinking about collaboration. SharePoint Online, you know, it might not be something that users have actually implemented in the past because they've used traditional file servers, but now they want a place to store all of their documents in the cloud and collaborate with other users. SharePoint Online definitely does that for us. And along with that SharePoint Online team collaboration storage, we also have OneDrive for Business that gives people at least a terabyte of space in order to store their personal documents, and even share that document out if you need to. So where I want to take you now is what I think is the hidden gem of Office 365, and that is Skype for Business. And Skype for Business over here in the top right-hand corner has had so many advancements. I mean, when you think about email, when you think about storing documents, you know, that's almost commonplace, right? But how are we really thinking about communications and collaborations versus what they currently have today? They may have a traditional phone system. They may be using free instant messaging software in order to be able to communicate. How are they making their phone calls today? Skype for Business has really gone through an evolution, and I think that when you get to the Aruba section with Jeff, you're going to really see how we can optimize that for your businesses. And so you'll notice I've put these little logos, server, desktop, you know, across each of the different areas of Office 365. And the reason why I'm doing that is because these are the opportunities, right? This is when you take a look at an end customer and say, hey, I can take care of Office on your desktop. Oh, you need to buy a brand new server? Let's think about the cloud instead with Office 365. And here's where you can kind of focus your expertise. All right, so as I mentioned, you know, Skype for Business, hidden gem inside of Office 365. And if you haven't been keeping track of what's been happening with Office 365, you may not know that we recently launched the E5 plan. And the E5 plan is where we really take the power of Skype for Business and really give small businesses that enterprise functionality that they haven't seen before. You know, right now, you know, you're watching a meeting or a broadcast of a presentation, you know, across a conferencing tool, right? That's not Skype for Business, but I did want to make sure that you know that with Skype for Business, we can reach up to 10,000 users or 10,000 attendees inside of Skype for Business, and you have call control, or I'm sorry, rather, you know, instant messaging. You have the ability to do types of Q&A answer panes. So it's a really great way to do broadcast over the E5 plan. We've also built in what's called PSTN conferencing. So as you know, whenever you want to set up a meeting, you typically have to give someone a phone number, like a 1-800 number, then they dial in a PIN, and then they're logged in. But you normally have to pay a secondary fee for that type of service, depending on how many people are attending, depending on your monthly subscription and so forth. That's built into the E5 plan. If you have a scenario where you've got a small business that would like to alleviate themselves from their traditional on-premises PBX system and move it to the cloud for those types of cloud control functions, we've got Cloud PBX built into the E5 plan. And if you've got a business that's thinking, hey, you know, I'm subscribing to an expensive call plan in order for me to make dial tone type conversations, not just voice over IP from PC to PC, but actually making calls directed to landlines or cell phone numbers, dial tone numbers. Now, PSTN calling has now been built into Office 365 with the launch of the E5 plan. And to kind of give you a way of how we position these different plans, I wanted to show you the Office 365 Enterprise Suites and the retail prices that you have up here in the top right-hand corner. First of all, if you're just thinking about services, right, when I talk about Skype for Business, when I talk about SharePoint and I think about Exchange, that's the E1 plan. So a retail is $8 per user per month. You get that 50 gig mailbox. You have instant messaging. You have the ability to use Office inside of a web browser. But if you want to have Office installed actually on a desktop on those 5 PCs that I mentioned, you're going to need to take a look at the E3 plan. It gives you some more storage from an email perspective, but it then also gives you the client apps, as well as some additional archiving, data loss prevention, and encryption. But when you want to add in those cool E5 features I just talked about with the PBX, with the conferencing, with the call-out capabilities, that's when you think about the E5 plan, and that's about $35 a month. So once you've enabled the E5 plan and you've enabled the ability to make phone calls, then you've got to think about how you're going to make those phone calls, meaning are you going to be calling domestically, or are you going to be calling domestically and internationally? At that point right there, you think about the calling plans that you're going to add on top of the E5 plan. So if you're just going to be making calls within the U.S., we've got a $12 plan per month per user that accounts for 3,000 minutes. And if you want to make international calls, it's $24 per user per month. And what's great about that kind of calling plan is it's aggregated across all the users in your organization. So for example, if I have a user that only uses 500 minutes a month, but I have another user that uses 4,500 minutes a month, I'm covered, because it's not going to be something that we have to really think about, because it's all consolidated in terms of the number of minutes that are going to be across that whole tenant. All right, so I've given you a lot to think about with Office 365, and we've talked about voice and about how you're going to be able to make some communications across the internet using Microsoft Cloud Solutions. So how do we really optimize that type of traffic? I want to turn this over now to Jeff from Aruba, so he can give you a little more details about what Aruba can do, and he'll take it from here.
Thank you, JJ. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff Backus. I'm with Aruba. I'm on the business development and alliances side, working closely to develop new technology into our products that make these types of solutions work better. We'll talk some more about that in a minute, but taking a step back, I want to introduce the environment to this conversation that the end customers are living in and working in. And as JJ pointed out, all of these collaborations and applications are existing in a very mobile-first, cloud-first world, and businesses are moving to that. Many businesses that we've been converting to an all-Wi-Fi environment for the last 10 years are now further challenged by some of the things that are occurring in their environment, not just at the Wi-Fi level, but related to user behaviors and the types of applications that they want to run in their environments. And, take a guess, kind of a pop quiz, if you will. What percentage of business owners out there are concerned, or really what percentage of networks out there are ready for modern mobile-first, cloud-first workloads? And the answer is fewer than 20%. About 80% of the networks out there aren't ready for this, and there's this huge growth rate of mobile devices coming onto these networks, and the traffic itself is increasing throughout the enterprise of the business's network. And all this is further compounded just by the ever-growing phenomenon of the internet traffic and network usage. Bring an employee into an office, they're likely to have a laptop and a smartphone, and possibly other devices, an iPad or what have you. Again, browser related or OS related, none of that really matters. The fact is that they're bringing these devices and they're on the networks. So the question becomes, can we accommodate the speed and the connectivity that these users need to be productive in the smallest of environments to the largest of environments? And that weighs heavy on a lot of our customers and business owners' minds that we're working with. And again, another pop quiz, can you think, what percentage of top execs and business owners are concerned about it? And the number's quite high. It's 89%. These are the people who are experiencing challenges trying to keep up with the phenomenon occurring on the other on the other slide. Now, implementation and planning is key, but a lot of the SMB and the mid-market are now adopting unified communications, and we're seeing a huge amount of growth, especially for unified communications and the types of functionality that JJ was talking about with the E5 licenses. Now, let's just back up for a minute even there. If a customer is using Office 365 and we're providing that managed service to them, or they're deciding to use that managed service, they also have basic conferencing capability, similar to what we're doing now in a small group. But if you wanted to extend that, you can license up and be able to broadcast to 10,000 users and have all that power from within the customer's very own network. But with the overall growth of basic functionality for conferencing and other dependencies and applications across the network, the growth is significant. And added to that model is these services, managed services, and probably the ones that you're providing along with an Office 365 solution include other cloud services and managed services. So with Office 365, there are multiple applications and it's one encrypted stream. So we need to be able to prioritize that and think about, well, gosh, if this is going to be my key productivity tool, how can I ensure that my users are truly productive with it, and that that solution gets deployed in a way that I can make money, that I can continue operation. So let's just talk about the technology that comes with that in a minute. Right now, I want to kind of come back to the idea that, you know, we as business people need to support these customers, and, you know, what are the reasons that, you know, we might want to do that. And the perspective really that I want to provide at this point is kind of a two-angled approach. Depending on who's listening right now and what sort of business model is being addressed, we're just going to sort of take the first case, which is, you know, what are the drivers to attach Aruba Instant to Office 365 sales? So let's say you already have an Office 365 business and you're looking for ways to increase customer satisfaction or add additional managed services and, you know, perhaps increase the volume of those sales and ease of which you're deploying them. Maybe you've run into some of these same deployment challenges that we've heard from customers related to the BYOD phenomenon, all these devices coming with workers as they show up in the workplace. Maybe they have issues around productivity and being able to log on and stay logged on and be able to hear people in a clear and real-time fashion. So one of the key things that Aruba does is to increase that the opportunity for repeat consumption and monthly recurring revenues, because we increase the reliability overall of the service through the network. Some technology is involved, of course, and we're going to go into some detail around AppRFT and how that really is designed for Office 365 and the customer's networks, and some of the heuristics and additional technology that make that technical value proposition you know, work for the customer, whether they're aware of it or not. And then that in turn also helps our partners and resellers support that through a solution that is very easy to deploy and differentiated when it comes to selling. And that includes some zero-touch provisioning, which it can increase your per installs, and as well as support, decreased support requirements. So this technology is designed to fit into the very small type of business environments without an IT department and without creating a support burden for the reseller partner who's providing the complete solution. The other perspective is attaching Office 365 to an Aruba Instant practice. So Aruba Instant truly is an instant access point that can go into a customer environment. Some of the engineers like to call it a lick it and stick it type of solution because it's so simple to deploy. They really just plug it in. But with an Office 365 practice, there's an opportunity for incremental income, and of course, with the Aruba Instant practice, that's also true, right? There's a big opportunity out there with Office 365, considering that, you know, 50,000 plus customers are signing up. And with that opportunity, using Office 365 to help resolve the 80% of networks that aren't ready for a mobile-first experience, upgrading to Aruba Instant Access Points solves a lot of those problems and ensures the recurring revenues for the partners. And it's not a complex sale. This is easy to do. There's no certification required, although I do encourage partners to sign up, and we'll talk a little bit more about the partner program that provides additional features and benefits for doing so. But looking at it from the attaching Office 365 perspective, again, security through the support structures that already exist when that product gets sold. My next couple slides really start to dive into the promised technology and differentiators. Excuse me. Why is Office 365 better with Aruba, and specifically Aruba Instant Access Points? So Aruba Instant Wi-Fi, and if you're not familiar with this product, sometimes it's referred to as IAP or Instant Access Point or Aruba Instant, but it all means the same family of products. And these are designed for easy deployment and a lot of power in the services and the capabilities they provide to the network. And it's very scalable. It's really built upon dozen years of experience with enterprise networks, branch, and small business requirements. But what's built into the product is RF management. So this is something that ensures the quality of the connection and allows better roaming, higher performing roaming, and other features that keep the radio frequency well managed and serving the data connection that is really riding across those frequencies. Also included is built-in security, so firewall role-based access. You can you can modify the settings within these access points, or you can use them straight off the shelf and achieve some role-based access, as well as intrusion prevention and detection built in, applications visibility and compliance. These are things that traditionally for Wi-Fi have required a lot of expertise, a lot of IT type of support. That we have boiled down into a much easier to deploy and easier to use solution. And we have some built-in resiliency. We'll talk about how these devices support each other so that they're able to endure through difficult times that would normally stymie other networks. And part of that begins with the install and how Aruba Instant works. So really what you do is you sell these products along with the Office 365 or attach them, and you get that configured. It's a very simple web-based UI, and essentially you can turn on the features that we just described in the previous slide, and then that becomes the master access point. That's the instant access point that customer is going to plug in, and it'll create its firewall and it'll manage all the controller functions. And with that, the APs that get connected after the initial AP that has been ready, set up for that customer will automatically clone itself to the other access points. And that allows a sort of write once, read many, or repetitive ability for that network to propagate itself across the business area, the floor space that needs to be covered for the Wi-Fi delivery. So no on-site IT is needed, and that automatically gives us network survivability, or I should say gives the customer network survivability, as you can see with this master and clone type of setup. If one of these devices in the customer environment, one of these access points, these instant access points, if it should stop working or somebody should knock it off of the ceiling accidentally or whatever might happen to it, the rest of the access points are prepared to take the role as the master. So that's an enterprise type of feature, again, that's been boiled down and optimized for smaller environments to make a very easy to deploy cloud-first, mobile-first Wi-Fi network. Extending into additional technology that makes Aruba Instant better with Office 365 is something called AppRF, or Applications Radio Frequency. We've coined a term AppRF. And what's really standard in all networks is that we have access points regardless of who makes them, sending radio frequency waves back and forth, or sending and receiving radio frequency to enable connection for the end users, the people walking around with the notepads or with their smartphones. But what instant access points add to that is the ability to examine, what's in those radio frequencies, the channels themselves, and what's coming across them in terms of applications. And then it can examine that environment and decide what's high priority and deserves the real-time capability. So, for example, Skype for Business, E5 type of licenses that JJ was talking about. As soon as a voice call is being conducted across your Wi-Fi network, that's a real-time communication. If it's a conference call with the standard Office 365 offering, let's say it's 6 colleagues in the same building, or 6 colleagues dispersed across a wider network, those that are connected to an instant access point can enjoy priority for that real-time communications, sharing slides such as we're doing now, voice communications to speak to those slides, interactive conversations. We all know what a bad call connection sounds like. AppRF helps helps keep that from happening. And the way we do it is managing the bandwidth, managing the applications, having enough intelligence to go beyond just examining an encrypted stream, and really applying some rules that are actually user selectable. So if you wanted Facebook, or if you wanted BitTorrent, or you wanted some other application to be the highest priority application, and you wanted to push down the business applications, you could do that. But our point is that productivity with tools like Office 365, it deserves the optimization to make the business as productive as it can be. These tools are being used to be productive, and if they should have priority over tools that are to entertain or don't require real-time network support, maybe applications like Word or Excel, just as an example, you have that power and control. By default, it's going to give Office 365 and the E5 E5 license features priority. Okay, so moving on just real quickly about these instant access points. So scalability is key. So the SMB, even the smallest of SMBs with Office 365 and an instant access point, even just stopping at that is a step up in terms of priority, redundancy, security, and the features that we've been talking about. If we get into larger sites, maybe adding a second access point, or 3 access points, or 30 access points, then the redundancy features and some of the other automatically applied role-based type of features, again, apply. Those very same access points, whether it was started with a single license of Office 365 and a single access point, those same access points migrate in terms of investment proof for the customer all the way up into the largest multi-branch enterprise type of environment, what we call a completely controlled environment. Now, obviously, environments like that come with IT resources that will be able to continue to expand capability and the customization that some enterprises require. But even the smallest enterprise gets much of that, starting with, again, the redundancy, the AppRF, and the client match technology. All put together, that provides essentially the best platform that Microsoft Office 365 users could ever want and really not know unless they're having problems with the connection. So our suggestion is, let's start off with happy customers. Let's look at this opportunity to provide a modern Wi-Fi solution that is capable of updating itself for security and priority and other ability to include other managed services by our partners, that is easy to install and very easy to support. we should start from the beginning and ensure those customers get into the managed services and repeat that business. And alternatively, as you sell Office 365 and you begin to recognize customers who may be having deployment issues, this is the first place to go. Go examine the Wi-Fi, or even easier yet, send them an instant access point. As soon as they get onto that access point, you'll know what it was that was bedeviling your customer, and we can prevent that and act collaboratively on that. Or, as I said before, if you find this problem and you want to solve it, remember the instant access point. The last comment that I wanted to provide is that we have a deep relationship with Microsoft at the corporate headquarters level, and that's around development, and has led to Aruba pervasively being the Wi-Fi used on campus. And the amount of real-time communications and statistics are astounding. I mean, we're 16,000 calls a month per building. Over 96% of those calls rated at toll quality, right? Not cell phone quality, toll quality, traditional dial tone twisted pair type of quality. And that level of environment is pretty intense in terms of the BYOD devices showing up, because the Microsoft employees and staff and executives tend to have a lot of devices, and they really have already migrated to a completely wireless environment at Microsoft, and so have many of our customers, including ourselves. So if you've grown accustomed to recommending customers plug into a copper connection or a traditional Ethernet cable, make sure you're plugged in before you get on the conference call. We're solving that, and that just makes businesses more productive. It makes the value of Office 365 go up significantly, and your customers being happier and pleased with that managed service will certainly be looking to you for some of the other products and solutions that you can offer that will dovetail right onto that same network and into those same workloads. And that's the last of my slides. I believe at this point I need to hand it back over to JJ.
All right, thanks, Jeff. So, folks, you've heard some great conversations that you're going to be able to have with your end users about optimizing Office 365. And what I really wanted to make sure you guys were aware of is that there are some ways for us to purchase Office 365 and Aruba directly through Tech Data. And so I wanted to kind of go over some of the sales models that we've had in the past and that we still have today to sell Office 365, and then turn it over to I believe, Greg, to help you out and understand some of the opportunity around Aruba as well. So if you recall, and you have been a reseller selling Office 365, we used to have, and we still do have, a solution called the advisor model, where you as a Microsoft reseller would sell your customers the opportunity to have an Office 365 tenant, and then you would receive partner of record fees on the back end. Now, the credit or card payment would be paid directly by the end customer, but you again receive those partner of record fees on the back end. And so you told us at Microsoft that, we want to own the complete billing process, and so we introduced the Open program that allowed you to bill your customers directly. You were in control of selling Office 365 and the transaction, so you could bill as you please. However, this was an annual upfront model, right? So the way that we billed Open was you get a token, the customer is able to use Office 365, but they're billed all upfront for that whole year once you activate that token. And so, in talking to resellers even more, we said, what are some other things that we can do to help you really optimize your sales cycle with the cloud? And that's where we introduced the Cloud Solution Provider Program. And with the Cloud Solution Provider Program, you really have full control of how your customers are going to be billed, how you're going to transact Office 365, how you're going to manage their tenants, how you can, as a CSP provider through Tech Data, actually provision up or down. So if a user if a user leaves an organization, you can remove the user from the tenant. If a user comes into the fold, meaning they're a brand new employee, you can add a user account. Very simple to do through the CSP platform with Tech Data. And obviously, now you've got that way to provide that managed services support and scale this out to as many customers and end users as you'd like. And so when you think about CSP, how did this really work, right? So Microsoft is going to be selling, I guess you could say, our Office 365 access to Tech Data, who then in turn provides it to you as a reseller, who you in turn sell it to your end customer. So traditional channel model is how we deploy CSP through Tech Data today. And so with your help, CSP enables you to set the price directly and bill your customers however you'd like. And so when we talk about CSP, we've moved now from that annual upfront model with Open to a monthly billing platform that you can now provide to your end customers. What's great about this is that even though you are billed monthly as a CSP provider from Tech Data, you can actually go to your end customers and bill them however you'd like, just as I mentioned here in the first little bullet there. And that is by saying, hey, you know what, Mr. End Customer, I would like you to pay me every 2 months, every 4 months, every half a year, maybe even do the whole year up front. It's really up to you how you want to control that bill with your end customer, depending on how you bill them for your managed services. And so, again, that flexibility is something that resellers have been looking for, and we're providing that through the CSP program. You get to directly provision and manage those subscriptions, and you're also now that first point of contact for customer support. So when they're looking at their support inside of Office 365, you are the reseller that's going to help them through that support process. So you're now creating that cloud subscription or partner offer. You're setting the package price and selling it to your customers. You then are placing the order for Microsoft Cloud Services through Tech Data, and now you've got that great package solution that you can now market how you please. In fact, we're seeing a lot of resellers, instead of saying that they're selling Office 365, they are now deploying, or selling rather, JJ's custom cloud solution for productivity, right? So they're relabeling it and mixed in along with a lot of other solutions that they're able to provide. And Aruba would be a great complement to this type of scenario. So it's not just about that Office 365 licensing revenue, right? So you as a reseller need to think about the broader economic opportunity as it pertains to selling Office 365 and deploying these cloud solutions. And so we really start here on the left-hand side with that Office 365 licensing revenue. And you'll notice from this chart that you see a little recurring symbol across a number of these areas, right? So once you sell Office 365 through CSP, yes, you are going to get that recurring licensing revenue. But you'll notice that that's a small component in terms of the total revenue you're going to get from an end customer. Because where you're going to earn a little bit more money, or maybe a lot of money, is through deployment and migration services. But that's usually a one-shot deal, and you'll notice that we don't have a recurring symbol over that particular column. So how do you generate the most profit? How do you actually build greater revenue on a recurring basis? It's through managed service and support and these add-on projects and solutions. So some of our managed service providers who are already in the business and know how this works for on-premises stuff, they're already providing help desk support, new user setup, password resets, updates, end user training, some great ways to think about managed service and support. But I'll be honest with you, there are a lot of managed service providers out there who are providing similar services, so how do you really differentiate yourself? That's where we turn to this last column with the add-on projects and solutions. Here's where you take Office 365, you build it for a certain vertical, maybe create special workflows inside of SharePoint that are for the auto industry or for the medical industry, right, or for government. And you market that and you build that on a recurring basis on the platform for Office 365. And let me also add in, for example, CRM Online and Azure into the mix as some additional ways for you to build that cloud revenue on a recurring basis. So again, just don't think about selling Office 365. I know you're thinking about this more broadly, but here's a great little chart for you guys to think about as you move your business forward. So when we think about CSP profitability for partners and that licensing revenue, I did want to point out that as a CSP provider, you're going to be providing that support to your end customers. And we at Tech Data really want to help you out in terms of how you think about support. And so you as a reseller may need support from Tech Data because maybe you're new to Office 365, or maybe you just want to take a vacation because you don't want to have your end customers calling you while you're on vacation. You want someone else to back you up, right? And so we've got different support plans within CSP at Tech Data, and just kind of wanted to show you and then walk you through how the profitability works. I don't have any exact percentages or margin numbers in here. You're going to have to talk to Tech Data directly to get those for you as it pertains to your specific relationship with Tech Data. But to give you an example, the Select Suite through the CSP program is going to not only provide support for you as a reseller, but also direct support for your end customer. So if an end customer is having a problem with Office 365, they can actually call directly into Tech Data support, and they'll be covered, right? So you again can take that lovely vacation, or go on some downtime, and know that you're supported here at Tech Data. But let's say you've already got a 24/7 NOC. You've got some people that are adding a lot of value, at all times of the day. And so maybe you don't need that end customer support because you want to always be that link and always have that relationship to the customer. Well, we can just provide partner support to you. So if you're having some trouble or need some backup, we've got that partner support specifically for that call-in. And now let's say, you say, I don't need any support because I've been doing Office 365 and even BPOS when it was named that for many, many years. I just want the largest amount of margin that I can get from my licensing revenue. And you can look at the Elite program that's going to give you the highest amount of profitability through Tech Data today in the CSP program. So just to kind of highlight, some of the ways that we provide profitability in CSP. And hope you guys call us up and get started as quickly as possible if you haven't already signed the CSP rider. So with that, let me go ahead and turn it over to Greg so he can tell you a little bit about how you can become a partner today with Aruba.
So how you guys doing? My name's Greg Tolson. I am an HPE Aruba channel sales specialist. Just real quickly, I wanted to go over on how to engage with Tech Data and or Aruba. So today, currently, if you're interested in anything that you've heard today, you do not have to be a partner to purchase any of the Aruba gear. However, it's very easy to apply. Actually, the link is here in the slides, which will be made available to you. By becoming a partner, you get access to certain benefits like deal reg and so forth. So again, if you're interested, please feel free to sign up. It's very easy. It's one quick form that would go to the inside team and get approved. To engage with Tech Data, I've listed some key contacts down here. So Kevin Imperial is the networking specialist for Tech Data. Feel free to engage him for any information that you may need on Aruba, HP networking, et cetera, pricing and programs and so forth. If you'd like to just place an order, you can contact your sales teams at the number below. And then if you had any pre-sales technical questions, I've left the number for the Tech Data engineering team. And that's really all I had. So I'd like to turn it back over to Jeff and JJ to answer any questions.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move to the Q&A section of the webinar. It looks like we have a few questions so far, but please go ahead and leave any questions you might have in the Q&A section. So I'll go ahead and get started. So we have a question here. Why would Wi-Fi matter when Office 365 is a cloud-based service?
That sounds like one for Aruba. So this is Jeff again. Why does Wi-Fi matter when Office 365 is a cloud service? So there's a couple aspects to that question. The first is in the business environment or the customer's environment, productivity is key, certainly there and anywhere, but the place that they can control, I mean, nobody has control over the network they attach to if they just arrive to an environment, need to get to their Office 365 service. But if you're using the tools and you're taking advantage of the mobility and the cloud, then you certainly want to ensure the highest level of productivity in your workplace environment. So the last inch of the network, as it is often called, or the final point of connection between the user and the network that's being made available to them, that's the most critical portion of the network. And the big numbers that we saw in terms of the readiness of Wi-Fi networks and the amount of challenges facing those networks in terms of devices and users and traffic, that's where it all boils down to. It comes down to just the last inch of the network, 95% of it. So that's why you want to be able to ensure the service in the business, in the place of business. The other point to remember is that the additional challenges that we face when we go off to other locations, right? So we've all had the experience that, gosh, my Wi-Fi connection at the airport or the local coffee shop just isn't that great. So contrast it to that, right? We've all had the experience where we know that the network or maybe we know the network isn't sufficient. Why endure that in your point of business? And you can solve a lot of problems with the Aruba Instant AP and eliminate that right from the get-go.
All right, thanks, Jeff. I think there's a question. This might be for JJ. They're asking if they have to be Microsoft certified to sell CSP.
Good question. So in order to be able to sell Office 365 in general, you do need to sign what's called the Microsoft Online Services Partner Agreement. And in order to do that, you do need to have a Microsoft Partner Network ID. So that is something that is a requirement in order to get started and to sign the CSP-specific rider and so forth. So I wouldn't call that certification per se, but it is something that you need to do. So you need to become a Microsoft partner. But if you're talking about being certified and to take specific exams and to have gone and become an MCSE, that is not specifically required. So good news is just call into the Tech Data team at Microsoft. I'm sorry, the Microsoft team at Tech Data rather, and they'll be able to walk you through that whole process.
All right, thanks. Someone just asked if Aruba just got bought out by Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. So how did?
So what's the question?
So someone's asked, didn't Aruba just recently get bought out by Hewlett-Packard Enterprise?
Right, yes. So Hewlett-Packard Enterprise acquired Aruba about a year ago, and that brought together the two leading brands in terms of market share, chasing Cisco, of course, but the number two vendor for Wi-Fi joined the number two vendor for switching at that point. So HP Networking, and formerly branded as ProCurve, that entity was combined with the Aruba entity, and now goes forward as Aruba, a Hewlett-Packard Enterprise company. That also brought together the two leading alliance partners for the Office and Skype for Business workloads that have been engineered and optimized for real-time communications, as well as survivability, et cetera, and the rest of the value proposition extending up into the enterprise. So now at this point, we have brought together software-defined networking technology, client match technology, RF optimization technology. All of these technologies have also been deployed throughout the product portfolios and the integration of Aruba with Hewlett-Packard. So it brings together essentially the three most powerful alliances for delivering value to the customer in terms of quality of experience by combining Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Networking, Aruba Networks, and Hewlett and Microsoft. I hope that answers the question.
Do we have any other questions? We've had some pretty good questions so far. All right, so someone's asking, what's the minimum number of users required to start an E5 subscription?
That's an easy one for me. So, what's great about the flexibility with Office 365, right, is that we want to make sure that we can scale this down to customer sizes of all types, right? So if we have a small business customer that has 5 PCs or even just 1 PC, so you see what I'm getting at here, we have a plan for them. So to start up an E5 plan, you only need 1 user, right? So you can start off with very small and grow as you need to, and CSP can help you provision that.
All right, thanks. All right, any other questions, guys? So someone's asking if they can add voice features to a Business Essentials or Business Premium plan.
Okay. So when I talked about that flexibility earlier, right, just a second ago, I talked about being able to start an E5 plan with just 1 user, right, so you can have that voice functionality and have that calling plan. What's important to note is when we say E5, the E stands for enterprise plan. So that's going to be something like the E1, the E3, the E5 plan, or some of the enterprise individualized services. If you are looking at a business plan, so that's going to be like Business Essentials or Business Premium or the business plan, those currently are not eligible to have a voice plan added to them. So you would need to look to a plan that begins with an E or one of the individualized services. So again, to answer the question, no, you cannot add it to Business Premium.
All right. All right, we got one more. Wi-Fi can be very tricky. Why would a reseller mess with it?
It's true. Wi-Fi's reputation is tricky. It's partly the early implementations of the technology, and it's also partly the fact that there's a lot of money in it for traditional networking partners to have a complex solution. The thing about Wi-Fi today is that it's taken for granted. We all expect it to be at the airport for free. We all expect it to be at the coffee shop, and of course we expect it in the work environment, and increasingly using that as our primary productivity tool, so we can stay productive, roam, and stay connected. That is not something that was easily achieved early on in the history of Wi-Fi, and with the experience and the capabilities that are now built into product like instant access points from Aruba, it's plug and play. It has the intelligence to manage a lot of the intricacies. Now, what doesn't go away is the need to provide enough access points in an environment. The larger the environment, i.e. the more square footage where service is desired to be guaranteed, that's still something that a little bit of thinking has to go into, one per room, or if it's a very large room, scattered across the room. And the tutorials and the very easy to consume types of partner content exist to help make that easier, or provide additional tips and tricks to be able to determine that. But for a product like Instant Access Point, the trickiness is no longer the big concern. The big concern is the existing customer networks that are built on the outdated technology that won't have the capacity for the user and the use modes, much less the ability to adapt and be updated easily for the sanity of whoever has to operate that network in a customer environment. And for SMB, our assumption is there is no IT support. So that has to be in the product, not in the reseller, not at the customer site. And it brings the experience and the technology of, as I said, over 10 years worth of doing this stuff to make it easy, to make it a margin transaction opportunity instead of a service support nightmare.
All right. Well, it doesn't look like if there's any more questions, so I don't know if Jeff or JJ, you guys had anything else you wanted to add before we close the webinar?
Thank you for joining.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for attending our webinar. Really appreciate it.
This concludes today's conference call. You may now disconnect.